Hi everybody, welcome back to another installment in what seems like the never-ending Jeep parking light project. I thought I was done. I had gone out to mount one on the vehicle and I started having immediate problems. And the problem was this metal part of the original housing where it stamped out where you push the bulb down in. The fact that it was stamped with rounded corners meant that it just wasn't holding the bulbs properly. This outer shell, the metal shell of the LED bulb, is much thinner than the shell of the old incandescent, and the pins don't stick out quite as much, and the material is just nowhere near as solid and as strong. So what was happening with a little bit of pushing and vibration, it would just pop the bulb right out. And the old rubber parts that held the wires and gave the bulb pressure were as hard as a rock and rotting. I mean, this is a 1980 vehicle and this stuff is stock. So in another life, I would have probably put a set screw back in here to hold the bulb and just wired the bulb solid. But I got thinking, well, you know what? Because these parts are really no longer available by themselves. You got to buy the entire housing and lens and everything to get them. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's pop into Fusion and let's make ourselves a replacement for this. So I'm going to take you over to Fusion real quick, and I'm just going to walk you through the steps I went through. I'm not going to go through the whole design process because I've already done it and nobody watches those videos anyway. If enough of you want to see that, ask me down in the comments and maybe I'll walk all the way through it. I don't know. Sorry, the recycle pickup is out front and his brakes squeal and that's the noise you're hearing. So I am going to pop over to the Fusion 360 screen. I haven't even turned on the program that does that. Let me pop over and I will walk you through that real quick and we'll see where we go. Be right back. Here we are on the Fusion screen, and like I say, I'm just going to quickly walk you through the steps of what I did because nobody seems to be interested in all the rigmarole of going through the full design, because most of you probably aren't doing this. You're just going to download it off Thingiverse, and I am going to put it on Thingiverse. So first thing I did was I came to modify and change parameters, and my camera's hanging in front of my computer screen, so if it takes me, if I goof around a little bit, that's why. Change parameters, and I added in all the parameters that I thought I would need. I did add some later, and I renamed some so they made some more sense, and there's probably 2 or 3 in there I'm not even using. So my first step, and I'm just going to step through the history down at the bottom, and when I first decided to make this, I was going to make it a dome, a round dome like the original metal part. But then I started thinking, well, where am I going to mount the bulb? And I had some of these plastic bulb holders with the wires already in it that I had bought for the rear, but they require a flat surface. Then I started goofing around trying to figure out how to put a flat surface on a round dome, and I thought, well, why make it a round dome? Nobody gets to see it. It can be a square box if I want it to. So anyway, this is what I did. You know what? Here, let me turn sketches back on. I started with a rectangle. I extruded it up like this. I decided I was not going to make it just a square box, although I could have. It doesn't really matter. And let me move over. I drew a round circle on the top of that. I cut that down through till I had this shape here. Then I drew some more sketch. Then I made a shell command on it, and I shelled it so it's hollow. I drew another circle near the top. I made an extrusion, and something didn't work, and I can't remember what. And I came back and I made a slight let me get here. I made an offset face going down where I added a little bit of thickness to that. And I came back in and I did that later. Even though it's here in the history, I moved the history back and did it at this point. Then I drew a couple more circles near the top. I extruded that down, so that's where and here's another thing. Had I made this at the same time I made the lens, I would have made it a little differently. But I made the lens to fit the metal. Now I'm making this to fit the lens, which was made to fit the metal. Heck, I could have, if I had known I was doing this all at once, I could have made this a single piece, lens and body, out of the out of the semi-transparent ABS, but you know what? We're doing it this way now because that's kind of just how things worked out. I made some sketches for my holes. I extruded the holes through. I made a sketch over here for where this where that plastic light bulb holder is going to go into, and I'll show you that here in a bit. I made some more extrusions going through. Now you can see that's where the bulb holder pushes in and you twist it to lock it in. Then I started putting some fillets in it, inside and outside fillets. If you only do the outside fillets, you make it too much fillet, the material gets real thin, so you need to do an inside then an outside fillet. And then my outside fillet, let me switch the sketches off, and this is my final part. That is what I did. Oh, I also made a gasket. Not going to walk you through that because it was just too easy to even bother doing so. But here's the final part I decided to make. So let's switch back to the camera. Let me show it to you and we'll see how it works. And maybe I can finally get these lights on and get that thing covered up and out of the Arizona summer sun. Be right back. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Well, let's get that out of the way because we're not going to be using that. Here's the part. And I had originally, and if you look at it in Cura, it pops up flat on the bed like that. And because I had originally planned on printing it this side down and doing what I did on the rear housings is to make this printable, being brain dead and not realizing if I make that in an angle and printable, it won't sit flush against the sheet metal body. So I wound up flipping it, printing it like this. There is a little bit of support tower in here for this flat surface. And I tried doming this at one point, and to be honest, the more I looked at it, the more I didn't like it domed. It still required some support, and then then the support for this here was standing all alone, and that doesn't work. So there it is there. Here is one of my light holders that I bought. I bought 6 or 8 of these for the rear because I just needed the wires out of it. And so I've got a few of them floating around. I soldered and heat shrunk the old wire connectors onto the back of it. These hold the bulbs really, really nice. Let me stick one in there so you can see. These hold the bulbs really, really nice because they're cut. They're cut out of the inside and not just press stamped with some round tool. So these work super nice, and as you can see if I can show you, they press into, wide part is down there, they press in and fit, and then you just twist them a little bit to lock them, and they're locked in. Here's the lens, excuse me, the gasket. The lens, which was originally designed to fit the sheet metal part, that fits in, and the stock screws are now slightly too short, so I had to go get some longer screws. And Bob's your uncle. So this is my new part. It's all ready to go. The bulbs are in it. All I got to do is take it out and mount it and hope nothing else goes wrong. Hopefully I've appeased all the demigods of things going wrong. Murphy and what's his name, they're all happy. Going to get this mounted on, going to get it plugged in. Oh, since the one thing I didn't mention, since there are no ground wires on the old metal parts, everything is grounded through the sheet metal in the body. These new plastic ones do come with a ground wire built in, and I just stuck a ring terminal on the end, lengthened it a bit and stuck a ring terminal on the end, and if I have to, I'll poke a small hole someplace and put a screw in it to ground them. But it's a Jeep, there's probably someplace back there to ground it already. So I'll get these on, I'll get them mounted, and I'll come back in the evening and we'll see what they look like. So the sun is down behind the hills back there, and we should get an idea of how these work. You can see I think they look pretty good. You can't hardly see the black base around it, and I've tried them. I was expecting a hyper flash, but I didn't get hyper flash. I got something else. So let me get the camera mounted on the tripod, and we'll take a look, see what we get. Hey, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Unfortunately, with the parking lights on, the turn signals don't work at all. And notice what I get when I have the turn signals on. So what I found out by looking on the internet is that there is a requirement to put a couple diodes in the system. Now I tried the original incandescent bulbs and everything works fine in it, so the wiring is correct. And the rears are doing the same thing now, which they were not before when I had the incandescent bulbs here up front. So apparently you'd have to put a couple of diodes in the system to prevent kind of a bleed over from one side to the other with the LED bulbs. I also tried a different set of LED bulbs thinking maybe it's the LED bulbs, but it's not. They did it too. So I think that's going to be a project for next year when it cools off, or not next year, but later after summer, after it cools off a bit, because it was brutally hot out here today. So I'm going to get my reflective tarp out and get this thing covered, and I will then do some research and try and figure out where the diodes need to go, and when it cools off we'll get that done. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you all the next time. Bye for now.